The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the season premiere of This Week in the AFL. Alongside Erik, Watkins, and Joran Palacio, I am Stevener. You are with us for the next 2 hours as we talk everything Arena Football League as we get ready for the 30th season. So let's start off the show by talking about this. I wrote a bunch of articles for different platforms about the Arena Football League, and then I shared them on Facebook. Going past Facebook groups and just everywhere, I see, the AFL's dead. There's only 5 teams. How are they going to compete? I mean, but you look at these teams, and all of these teams are so talented. I don't see the AFL dying anytime soon with all this talent.
Personally, I agree with you, and this was kind of the mantra of what Scott Butera and the top brass in the AFL wanted to do. They had a lot of owners who weren't happy with the direction of the league, and Butera decided, well, you know what? This is where I'm going to take it. I realize we need to clean house, and they have. And I've been one of those saying for the past few years, the league, while not dead, they have to realize that the time frame that they're operating in, under the cloud of drama, contraction, issues with owners, is pretty limited. People aren't going to last beyond the diehards for bridge season after bridge season after bridge season. This is another bridge season, but with the signings, with the pool of talent, and with the level of competition, this could be arguably the best bridge season yet. And I think it could wind up being the last bridge season because going into 17, everything seems to be better positioned for 18 and beyond. Finally, this is what's really going to seal it.
Yeah, when you kind of shrink down from 8 teams into 5, every single team has just gone so much better. And even the two expansion teams in Washington and Baltimore, both are looking pretty good going into this coming next week on Friday for opening night. And I think the thing is with the Arena Football League, if the league didn't die after all this stuff happened, after like that terrorist 2 weeks where 3 teams either folded or left on the very same day, this league is going to stay together. I know they took a year off, what was it, in 07, 08, somewhere around there, almost a decade ago now. But this league, and especially with this ownership, because it's something that Scott Butera has really, really pushed for, everybody is on the same page now. And I think the league, like Erik said, building up to 2018, but 2018 and beyond is looking good. And, it's kind of hard to say that when the league has been saying that for the past 5 years. But now that they have cleaned house, and now that all of these kind of sketchy, for lack of a better word, owners and teams are kind of out, and it's just clean, there's a new reputation kind of surrounding the league. And I think going up to 18 and beyond, the Arena Football League will continue to dominate the indoor football game.
Yeah, you guys both made the same point I was going to make. This could be the best season we see. This could be the best AFL season we've seen in a long time because of the talent that each team has. We will go over each team later on in the show, but even the two, I think Jordan mentioned it, even the 2 expansion franchises have so much talent. The Valor have an MVP quarterback. The Brigade have big play, Reggie Gray. It's just talent everywhere in this league, and this is Facebook group I'm in called Arena Football Fans, and all they talk about is how the indoor football league is king indoor football. And all I can think of is there's more talent on all 5 teams than there are in the indoor football league combined.
I mean, I've seen a couple of IFL games, and I can understand why a team like the Rattlers would leave, mostly for travel restrictions. But when you take away arguably their top talent, Nick Davila retiring, going into coaching, you see the difference. And everybody thought they were going to go in and dominate, but they didn't keep a lot of their players. Several of them stayed in the AFL with other teams, others went elsewhere, and now they're right in the muck and mire struggling like everyone else. And the only team that you're going to see dominate, and I've seen this as myself yet again, Jacksonville Sharks. They kind of built the National Arena League on their backs. A lot of their top talent, which could still be in the AFL competing at a top level right now, they decided to stay, and now they're in cruise control. So I'm sorry, there's nothing else really there.
I mean, if we're talking about indoor football, having been to a few indoor football games, since I do live in Arizona, it's so much different. It's just the game. Arena football is the most exciting game I have ever seen played on a 25 or 50-yard field. It's go, 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 go. When in an indoor football league, I don't understand why it has to be like this, but the continuous running of the ball, while it may work for some teams, and I put some, italicize that for me, some teams, it's just not as fun, it's not as exciting, it's not as upbeat, and that's something that the National Arena League or the IFL is ever going to be able to replicate, because the Arena Football League was the first to kind of make that their branding, and neither of those two leagues are ever going to have the same branding like that. It's just the IFL. I mean, it is the Salt Lake Screaming Eagles, the entire fan-based, fan-run team over there in Utah. In fact, I just saw this. I saw a picture of this earlier today. There was a poll put up for should the Screaming Eagles sign, I think it was Greg Hardy.
Yeah.
Right? And it was, the vote was split 50-50 for no and yes.
Oh.
And the caption was, "What do we do now?" Which, who knows what the plan is to do now. But, I mean, that's just some of, like, it just, to me, watching that from the outside, it's just a joke. And compared to the Arena Football League, I think those other two leagues, at least right now, are both jokes to the Arena Football League.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that a player had to be voted by the fans, whether or not he has a second chance at a football career, is a disgrace. I mean, the fact that they have not just one, they have two fan-run teams. Like, everyone will say, "Oh, the AFL needs leaders. They don't have leaders. That's why they're going to fit." The IFL has two teams run by fans.
They call them franchises. And
this Project Franchise. Oh my god.
I mean, but I can't be all bad. There's one redeeming quality. Norm Macdonald, who I remember back in the day, very funny comedian. He got to live out his dream of being in the press box. So we can't get on them too terribly now.
I watched that game, and what really set it off was the Screaming Eagles scored their first touchdown after the Nebraska Danger scored like 21 points. Mm-hmm. And the fans stormed the field and twittered off like, "Oh my god, this is garbage, this is terrible." Yeah. I mean, and obviously it is. So to those saying that the AFL is going to die because they don't have any great leaders, well, first of all, they have Dan Gilbert, or to the Cavs, who owns the Gladiators. I forget the name of the guy for the Storm. I forget his name. He played for the Bucks. Derek Brooks. There we go. He's a great leader, obviously. And I have Ted Leonsis. We'll get to him a little later in the show. He owns the new two expansion franchises in the Valor and the Brigade. So the AFL really does have great leaders. And this is why, and because they are looking for better leaders to expand, this is why the AFL, like Erik said, it's going to be much better for the next coming years.
Yeah, and I mean, preliminary talks about 18 having a team in St. Louis, which, with everything that's going along in the scene of St. Louis sports, if they can capitalize, that's a potentially golden opportunity, and that would really help bring the league back to its roots in the Midwest. So I'm getting excited, and I'm getting even more excited, which is a good thing.
And if we're talking about leaders, one person who Steven kind of left out, not on purpose, obviously, Ron Jaworski out of Philadelphia. I was lucky enough to go to the kind of media day at Arena Bowl 29 between the Soul and the Rattlers, and Jaws talked up at the podium for I think a solid 15 minutes about kind of the state of the league, and it's kind of ironic looking at it now that there's 3 less teams now.
Yeah.
But when he talked about the league and what he thought it meant to players coming out of college, not good enough to get into the NFL, but still giving them a chance to live out their dreams and play football for a living, it just made you believe in the league. If you ever get a chance to listen to Jaworski talk about the Arena Football League and what it means to not only these guys but some cities, some fans, it really lights a fire in you. It's like, oh my goodness, I want to like run through a wall now. Like, he is one of the best motivators that I have ever had the privilege of listening to, and I think he is a wonderful ambassador for the league.
Yeah, I totally forgot about Jaws. How could I forget Jaws? I cover the soap for my own website, and I forget about Ron Jaworski. Big guy.
Tisk.
But yeah, there's again a lot of great leaders for the AFL compared to the IFL. The NAL, I'm a bit into it. It's cool, but it's no AFL, that's for sure. But generalizing the AFL this year, 5 teams full of talent. I don't want to say who you guys have winning the Arena Bowl because I will save it for the end of the show. But who do you think? Who is your favorite team going into this season? That's what I want to figure out.
Sticking with my Florida bias and a couple of other biases I have, although growing up I never thought I would say this, I like Tampa Bay. The old cliche, winning the offseason, this and that, they're like, we had a terrible year, there's a lot out there to get, a lot of great players, coaches, etc. This is an opportunity for us to rebuild and bounce back quickly. They've really taken advantage and are continuing to do so, even with their latest signing of Alvin Ray Jackson. So that's the team, at least in my mind, I'm going to have my most eyes on.
I think there's one only real team for me that I see as the quote-unquote favorite, the odds-on favorite, and that's got to be the Philadelphia Soul. The first reason was they've retained most of their players that they had from their already Arena Bowl winning roster from last season. You got guys like Dan Rodabaugh in at quarterback, just an MVP, co-MVP, I'm pretty sure. No, that was co-coach of the year. MVP level player, and the guys got other like Torres Jones, Joe Goosby's another one of my favorites. Bo Bell, Michael Benson, a former Rattler who went over there. James Romaine, who is a DB that I absolutely love, who played in China over the summer and the fall. Just guys like that make it impossible for me to see any other team in the Arena Bowl later this year, just because Philadelphia has that chemistry. They've already played with each other. Rodabaugh knows where his receivers are going to be when they make their cuts. It's just things like that you can sign all the greatest players in the world, and certainly teams like Tampa Bay have done that, but you can't really, artificially make chemistry. And Philadelphia is the only team for me that really has that chemistry down to a T, and for that reason, that's why I see them as the favorite going into this season.
So I'm going to stick with Jordan. Jordan, you're saying that the favorite should be the Soul, and I agree. I mean, they just won the Arena Bowl. And the pressure's on them, and they know that. They're going to be working very hard to get back to the Arena Bowl, which I hope is in Tampa, by the way, Eric, because you don't know why.
Oh, yeah.
But you said that should be the clear-cut favorite should be the Soul. But like Eric said, he's keeping an eye on the Storm. I personally am keeping an eye on the Cleveland Gladiators, because last year, had the Rattlers not been there, Cleveland would have played Philadelphia in the Arena Bowl 29 last year. And now there's no Rattlers in the Arena Football League. So I'm looking out for Cleveland because they have Arvell Nelson who can run the ball, pass the ball. There's Collin Taylor. Unfortunately, Marv Ross isn't there anymore. He's with Jacksonville. but they still have a loaded, talented team. Is there a team you are keeping your eye on, or is it still the Soul?
What I want to see is I want to see Washington do well. Washington is one of the two new teams coming in, and I think they have a chance to kind of surprise some people. They've been making moves all throughout the offseason. Guys like Tracy Belton, who they've brought in, Bernard Morris, who had a great season filling in for Hippiard in Orlando last year. Mike Washington as well coming in at wide receiver. Cameron McGlenn, who had a great Chinese season, had something like an interception per game while playing over there. Erik Meyer, former San Jose SaberCat. Guys like that who all the talent is there. On paper, I think they're one of the stronger teams in the league. So I'm keeping my eye on them. I'm seeing them as kind of my dark horse for this coming season.
Ooh, a dark horse. I like that. My dark horse would probably also have to be the Valor. I have a feeling they'll be... nothing against the Brigade. And by the way, our Brigade previews the first team we do in about 5 minutes. Nothing against the Brigade, but I feel like the Valor, the dark horse, being the not the newer franchise, because Baltimore's the newer one. But I feel like the Valor are going to be more successful. They're going to have a bigger fan base, and that's going to want the not necessarily make the want to make the players do better. Something about having they play the Verizon Center. They have a lot of pressure on them, like Soul do, because the Wizards are succeeding right now. The Capitals are in the playoffs. The Mystics did pretty well last year, if I'm not mistaken. Big pressure on the Valor. They're going to come. They're going to show up. Nobody's expecting it right now because, it's a new team. It's not going to be as good as everyone thinks. Yeah, they are. That's going to be a great team. Erik, do you have a dark horse for this year?
I do, but I have to go about a half hour north into another city with another beltway. I think, if anything, Baltimore is going to be my dark horse because with Ted Leonsis building up Washington like he has, and as you said, with how the Wizards are doing, Capitals in the race for the President's Trophy in the NHL again, he knows how to be an architect of successful franchises in the DC area. And he's setting up the Valor to be successful really from week one. That's why I have them as one of my major contenders. But with Baltimore, they've really been quiet as kind of, as you said, the newest franchise and really that second team. Yes, they've had a couple big splashes of their own, good decisions as far as coaching and building, but they've mostly been more behind the scenes. And I want to see, okay, are you in a situation to where this behind the scenes work will pay off, and then you can leapfrog one or two teams and make a surprise one of your own. So they're my dark horse because they're the quiet, sneaky ones out of everybody.
Okay. My dark horse, it has to be Tampa. I mean, they've 2-15 last year? 1-16 last year? I don't remember.
Yeah, 2-15 with the playoff loss.
And the one win was against Arizona on a last-second touchdown. Like, no time left. They beat the Rattlers in week 9. I remember that game. Probably the best game of the year. Now, they had to be my dark horse because everyone's going to be looking for them to be all pretty bad again. They got Joe Hills. And Randy Hippiard played with them. Having them done their team, it's going to help a lot. We'll get to that a little later in the show. You are listening to This Week in the AFL. We have guests today. At 7:40, Mike Washington of the Washington Valor joins us. At the top of the next hour, 8 o'clock, our friend Collin Taylor of the Cleveland Gladiators will join us, so we talk some Glad football. And at the end of the show, we have Mr. Joe Hills of the Tampa Bay Storm. So I'm looking very forward to all of that. But coming up next, though, we get into our first team preview, and that is the Baltimore Brigade. That is on the other side. You are listening to This Week in the AFL.
Hello to all you Arena League football fans out there. I want to personally welcome you to join us, AFL Fan Zone, every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for a weekly recap of all things AFL. You got stuff to do on the weekends, which means you probably don't have time to sit down and watch every single game every week. That's where AFL Fan Zone comes in. Not only do we break down the week, but we provide you with everything you need to stay up to date with the AFL, including Players of the Week, Power Rankings, and the weekly standings. Best part is, the recap is fully interactive between the viewers and the host. Just search AFL Fan Zone on YouTube and you can find all of our archived videos, including game previews, recaps, and weekly updates. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and at our website at www.aflfanzone.com. AFL Fan Zone, your internet home for the best AFL fans.
Hi, I'm Donovan James, and welcome to the Don James High School Football Report, everybody, where we discuss and debate the hottest prep and college football recruiting topics in the country every week. Only here on NGSC Sports, 9:30 Eastern. For more, follow me on Twitter at Don James Sports.
It's game time, boys, and we know football. Football the Max is the podcast for you if you want in-depth analysis over the NFL and college football. We preview all the action coming your way over the weekend. And we break down all the big action after it's happened. Plus, we tackle all the big news topics and discuss everything when it comes to the gridiron. So come check out Football to the Max every Tuesday morning and Friday morning on the W2M network.
Are you an arena football fan looking for the latest news involving your team? Inside the Arena has you covered. Check us out for the latest news around both the Arena Football League and the Chinese Arena Football League. Read all of our stellar articles at InsideTheArena.org. Also, follow us on Twitter at Inside_Arena and like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/InsideTheArena.
Welcome back to This Week in AFL alongside Joran, Palacio, and Erik Watkins. I'm Stephen Herr. So we heard us talk about how the AFL is not dying and how they're still the king of indoor football. And now we get into our first team preview, and that is of the Baltimore Brigade. The Brigade are the newest franchise founded by, I believe he's the founder of Monumental Sports Entertainment, Ted Leonsis. He also founded the Washington Valor. And as soon as I heard the coach's name for the Valor, Coach Omar Smith, I realized this team was going to do great things.
I mean, giving Omar Smith a lot of credit for how he handled, not even just how he coached, but how he handled the season with the Kiss last year. I think this was a very good move. Not quite a fresh start or a second chance, but just putting him in a better spot, saying, hey, league is better, you're in a better position, we're going to get you a better team, so let's see what you can really do. So, out of the gate, I'm loving how they're setting up, who they've got, and if anybody, this is really going to create that sort of a grittier team that Baltimore fans of all football levels are really used to. So I want to see how this translates, but good things on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, I love Coach Omar Smith. 7 championships, 7 Arena Bowls he's won in his time as a coach and a player, and just his coaching staff as well. Virgil Gray, who's on the staff, won 3 Arena Bowls, 2 of which with Arizona, 1 with the Saber Cats. You know, guys like, he's brought some guys over from L.A., like Scott Bailey, who was the player personnel for at least a year, if I remember correctly. But 15 championships between everybody on the staff. So if the teams start from the top, and the top is the head coach, or if the top is the owner with Ted Leonsis, which is a good spot, at least as it stands right now, he's proved to be a savior for the league. And then you go down to the head coach, and you see Omar Smith. No matter who's following him down below, it's looking like Baltimore is set up to be able to build for a couple seasons and then be very, very good and even be contenders, if not this season, and the next couple seasons to come.
I totally forgot that Coach Orrin Smith had 7 Arena Bowls under his belt. That says a lot about how he is as a coach. And last year, was he the coach the first year I know he was last year, but was he the coach back in 2015 for the Kiss?
No.
No, okay. So do you think of how the Kiss did their first year? What was it? A couple wins, 2 or 3 wins, and then they host a playoff game the next year under Coach Omar Smith. So maybe, possibly, the Brigade could host a playoff game this year, one of the semifinals.
Part of that is a bugaboo of how I see the AFL handling the playoffs, but hosting a game finishing in the top 2, I can't quite say yes yet. I want to, but not yet. I just don't think there's enough there.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure we would all say the same thing about the Kiss going from their first season to their second season. Do I think it'll happen? No, I don't think it'll happen. I don't think they're going to host, but could it happen? Absolutely. Absolutely. Like we've said, Omar Smith going from a 2-win, I think at most, LA team the first year and turning them around and hosting a playoff game into the second year shows you what kind of coach he is and how easily the players just buy into what he's selling and how much, I don't want to say control, but how much leadership he exudes and kind of rubs off on his players. So like I said, I don't think it's going to happen, but would I be surprised if Baltimore was hosting a playoff game this year? I wouldn't be at all.
Yeah, I mean, any team can really host a playoff game. But with Coach Omar Smith, the Brigade, they have a pretty good chance of doing that. Not only do they have a great coach, and Virgil Gray, that name definitely rings a bell. Yeah, I feel like he's a pretty good player. They also have big play Reggie Gray, who did great for the Qingdao Clipper. I believe he played for the Qingdao Clipper in the CAFL. And who did he play for in the AFL? I know he played in the AFL.
He spent last year with the Sharks. And then before that, he was with San Jose.
Yeah, he's a big name guy as well. There's his one name that I have. Lavaser Tunye. He played with the Beijing Lions last year. Huge contribution. I have a feeling he's going to do great things for the Brigade. Have you guys been able to look at the roster and see who else they have that you might think this guy stands out? Wow, I'm really looking for him to do good for the Brigade this year.
To me, I think it's big play Reggie Gray. He's been their biggest signing so far, and seeing what he's done up close and personal, not just from this past year, but just overall in his career, he's really in a good position to be their playmaking guy. And there's a good way that they can use him as a part of their offense that I don't think too many teams have really since way back in the old days, early but mid 2000s. And to see potentially a little bit of that back, depending on how Omar Smith wants to handle his offense, just watch out.
Yeah, I think the two biggest players are guys we've already talked about. I love Reggie Gray, especially what he did in China this past year, and Lavaser Tunye. Also, again, a big China player, Beijing Lions, the first ever Chinese Arena Football League champion, Beijing Lions, that is, as I'm sure one of our future guests will be able to tell you about. Another guy that I see for Baltimore that we haven't really talked about is Leon Mackey. Leon Mackey is a guy who kind of has spent some time in and out of a couple different leagues, the IFL, spent some time with the Green Bay Blizzard, played for the Rattlers in 2014, and played for the Rattlers last season as well, now kind of re-entering the Arena Football League after a couple failed stints in the NFL, a couple practice squad spots. I think he's a guy that with the right coaching, and he played for the Rattlers when Omar Smith was the DC, the defensive coordinator of the Rattlers. I think under Coach Smith's guidance, I think he could be a guy that, nobody really bats an eyelash at on paper, but once the season starts going, I think he can be kind of that guy that's just the anchor defensively. So I'd look for him on the D-line for Baltimore. After I see the two big flashes of superstardom in Reggie Gray and Lavassier Toune.
Lots of big names for the brigade. And like we talked about earlier, they all both owned by Ted Leonsis. Now, let's talk a little bit about Ted Leonsis. Unless you guys have something else you want to say about the brigade. Anything else?
I think just about covered it.
So let's talk a little bit about Ted Leonsis. Still Goldman. He now writes for the Washington Valor, as does Joran. And he also covers the Columbus Lions for the National League coverage. He wrote an article that Ted Leonsis will either make or break this league. First of all, I have to ask you guys, do you agree with that point?
I really do. How he's set up, given two teams pretty big markets, yeah, I can't refute that.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at a 5-league team and he owns 2 of them, he almost essentially owns half the league. So when you look at it like that, yeah, I think the Arena Football League, Scott Butera has given him the keys to really drive this Arena Football League ship either into the ground, which hopefully not, I don't think it's going to happen, or take it off and kind of start it into the next generation, the new era of Arena Football League. And I think that all kind of happens at the helm of Mr. Leonsis. And I think he will. I think he's going to take it into that next level, into this new era, I guess we can say. And I think he is going to make the league, but he definitely has the same capability to break it at the same time.
Yeah, I think that this is it right here. I mean, Dan Gilbert owned the Cavs, and he owns the Gladiators, so that's the reason they're so successful. We talk about Derek Brooks with the Storm, and Ron Jaworski owns the Soul. But it's going to be Ted Leonsis, because if 2 teams fail, that's, again, like you guys say, that's half the league. Half the league has failed. So that might jeopardize, I don't know if it would jeopardize the future, but it would be a bad look for the AFL. So I'm hoping, I do think that Leonsis can save this league. I feel like him, like the Brigade and the Valor will both compete. They both do very well. Because both, like we all, like I've been saying the whole show, they both have a lot of talent. But we will see. We will see what happens for sure. So we got about 10 minutes left. Let's talk a little expansion here. I've heard things about like Sacramento being a city where a team might be. Have you guys heard anything?
Some rumors, especially that really started at the end of the San Jose tenure. And I know they're trying to really build it up as a sports city, trying to get some other professional franchises in, but I at best, I'm a little bit skeptical. I mean, Sacramento, going back to, I want to say, the early 90s, they had a team for a couple of seasons, and I don't know if Sacramento as a town, it could really work. I think it would be interesting to at least get a feel of it, but I don't know.
I think no matter who is in charge and in what direction the league is going, I think I'm always, just because of the way that the Arena Football League has kind of trained not only the press but the fans, because we've heard rumors about expansion teams every single season forever. It seems like there's always been rumors of, we're going to go to St. Louis. We got Sacramento in the works. We got this city and that city, maybe, possibly. And it always almost seems to fall through at the very end, or maybe they don't even get that far. I think this season, with the 2 new teams in Washington and Baltimore, was the first real big win for the Arena Football League in a while, it seems like, because it's either their expansion teams have joined for a season and then immediately dropped out. I think what was it, the Pittsburgh Power team lasted for 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, and they're the kind of last expansion team that I can really think of off the top of my head that at least got to that 2-year period. So no matter what, I'm always going to be extremely skeptical of the team or the league, expanding and expanding and expanding just because of the history and the kind of reputation they've built for themselves.
All right, I want to throw this out. I was sitting here listening to you guys talk about these different things, and I want to throw this at you. I think if there's one city that I could think of that I would love to see a team in, it'd be Boston. We play at the TD Garden, home of the Celtics. That would be big fan base. I don't know who the Celtics owner is, but he's obviously been very successful. So I think that maybe a team in Boston would definitely be something to look into if I am Scott Butera.
Well, with the marquee market comes a lot of marquee dollars. And I'm going to ask this as kind of a retort. With how the Celtics have been, especially the last couple of years, rebuilding, getting back to their ways of success, with the Bruins, how they've been the past 5, 6, 7 years, do you really think the Garden could handle not just a third tenant, but trying to build a third fan base? Because all of a sudden, you're competing with the Bruins. You're competing with the Celtics. And especially as we're getting to this time of year, you're competing with the Red Sox. Towards the end of the season, you're going to be competing with the Patriots. I would love for it to happen, but other teams from other leagues have tried it before, and they realize it's too crowded.
Yeah, I think sitting as a kind of a neutral, I think Erik kind of won me over with his retort. I would love to see it. I would love to see it theoretically and hypothetically if they were to go to Boston. I think Boston would be a great town, like I said, a great market. But like Erik said, the big market kind of teams, there comes a lot of cost with that. And arena football, where it's placed, you're battling with the Celtics. Like he said, the Red Sox coming up with opening day, less than a week away on Sunday opening day is. So I think that it would be an extreme challenge for the league, and especially right now with where they are and how fragile everything has kind of seemed, I'm not sure if they're ready to kind of experiment with different cities yet.
Okay, so you both think that it would be very hard to get a fan base for a Boston-based team. Would you say, do you think it might be the same for the Valor? Because they do have to compete with the Wizards, the Capitals, the Mystics, and the Redskins, and the Nationals, too.
With the Nationals being as up and down as they have been, there isn't quite as much of a fervor. And I mean, remember, Washington is only about, roughly a decade removed just from getting professional baseball back after a good 40-plus years. And with the Wizards and Capitals, you would have your troubles early in the season, but unless either one or both of those teams make a deep playoff run, I think by the time the AFL season really hits its stride, you'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. You might have some challenges up top, which arguably is the worst time to have some of those challenges, because if you can't get out of the gates running, then you might have trouble from the start, and it might be hard for you to kind of recover from those kind of first couple hard-hit weekends. But with the way that the Washington, I mean, you've been seeing all over Twitter, Facebook, the way they've been marketing their first game ever is exactly that. It's our first game ever. You only have one chance to come to the first game ever. So I think, I mean, if I was in Washington, of course I'm going. Even if I was a neutral and not like in love with the Arena Football League like I am, I think it's an extremely cool thing to be a part of. And especially if the Valor take off like I do, and if they are as successful as I think they can be, I think as soon as the season is finished, you're going to be looking at a pretty successful Valor team on and off the field.
You know, I was so close to going to that game, and then I found out today I couldn't get press passes. So I was like, it's not worth it. It would have been real nice to take that trip up after work. But hey, it's going to be exciting to watch that game. Washington Valor against the Baltimore Brigade, the first ever game for both teams. April 7th, 7 p.m. at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. And if you have CBS Sports Network, you are one lucky guy because you get to watch the game live on TV.
Yes! Hashtag don't waste SmackDown.
Coming up next, Mike Washington of the Washington Valor joins us. You are listening to This Week in AFL.
Hello to all you Arena League football fans out there. I want to personally welcome you to join us, AFL Fan Zone, every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for a weekly recap of all things AFL. You got stuff to do on the weekends, which means you probably don't have time to sit down and watch every single game every week. That's where AFL Fan Zone comes in. Not only do we break down the week, but we provide you with everything you need to stay up to date with the AFL, including Players of the Week, Power Rankings, and the weekly standings. Best part is, the recap is fully interactive between the viewers and the host. Just search AFL Fan Zone on YouTube and you can find all of our archived videos, including game previews, recaps, and weekly updates. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and at our website at www.aflfanzone.com. AFL Fan Zone, your internet home for the best AFL fans.
Hi, I'm Donovan James, and welcome to the Don James High School Football Report, everybody, where we discuss and debate the hottest prep and college football recruiting topics in the country every week. Only here on NGSC Sports, 9:30 Eastern. For more, follow me on Twitter at Don James Sports.
It's game time, boys, and we know football. Football the Max is the podcast for you if you want in-depth analysis over the NFL and college football. We preview all the action coming your way over the weekend. And we break down all the big action after it's happened. Plus, we tackle all the big news topics and discuss everything when it comes to the gridiron. So come check out Football to the Max every Tuesday morning and Friday morning on the W2M network.
Are you an arena football fan looking for the latest news involving your team? Inside the Arena has you covered. Check us out for the latest news around both the Arena Football League and the Chinese Arena Football League. Read all of our stellar articles at InsideTheArena.org. Also, follow us on Twitter at Inside_Arena and like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/InsideTheArena.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to This Week in the AFL. Alongside Joran, Palacio, and Erik Watkins, I'm Stephen Err. And now joining us is Mike Washington, wide receiver of the Washington Valor. Let's give him a round of applause, everybody. Oh, this is awesome. Love having him on. How are you? How are you doing today, Mr. Washington?
I'm doing great. You know, we still in camp. I think we got a day or two left in these hotels, thank goodness, because, you know, I think there's a flu bug going around and, you know, testosterone. Yeah, so it's time to get back to the hotel.
So I want to start by asking you this. You were with the Rattlers last season, right?
Correct.
So what was your reaction when you found out the team was moving to the Indoor Football League? Why didn't you go with them? Was there a reason for that behind that?
I ended up going there. I was in China playing, but my reaction was kind of shocked, just like everybody else, because not only Arizona, but also San Jose as well. You know, from the time I've been playing in the AFL, those two teams out in the West always been just strong staples and columns just for the AFL. So, I mean, that's just looking at the football wise, you know. But as far as business wise, you know, you're hearing things from, you know, certain ownership groups, you know, this, that, and the third. But you know, I don't know the business side of it, so you know, those are all speculation and rumors as of right now. But you know, I was just totally surprised with that move happening, along with a lot of other teams.
And this is Erik. I wanted to ask, because looking back, not just with Arizona, but with start of your career in Pittsburgh, also with Tampa Bay, you've been on a lot of very good teams, strong teams, and also kind of up and down teams. So with your experience in the variety of environments, are there any vibes or feelings that you're getting with the Valor, being with them in camp?
Oh yeah, certainly. You get a lot of. So you know, I started with Pittsburgh early in my career. Pittsburgh was a newly franchised, you know, team in Pittsburgh, and you know, it was a blessing that I can play home since I'm from Pittsburgh. With the Alabama High School there, which is not far from Center City in Pittsburgh. But you know, You feel things out, man. You got to keep your expectations kind of level. You know what I mean? For new franchises, even though the Washington Valor, you know, the Monumental Sports Network group did an awesome job, doing a fantastic job as far as like marketing, get the name out into the city of DC, and like the reception is extremely great. So as far as like the business side of it, man, the Washington Valor has been doing an outstanding job on it. I could say it's definitely way better than, you know, from starting out in Pittsburgh, which is like a newly franchise, and I started there in 2011. But you know, so on that aspect, the Washington Valor is doing great things, and you know, but as I said earlier, as I indicated earlier, you got to kind of keep your expectations kind of level because you know, first year franchise, they're still figuring things out, how to deal with the football team. So you got to expect little bumps here and there on the way, but you know, as far as like having the main focus point, which is just football, getting the players here, setting a great tone for the season. I think, you know, organizationally, they've been doing a great job of that.
Hey, Mike, Joran Palacio here. Now, you mentioned that you were playing some China ball over the offseason. You and Sean Klinamoku made a great impression over there with Shanghai. And what you guys were known for, which is funny to me because the league, it kind of took off because of this, was your touchdown celebrations, right? Was there one celebration that you really, really wanted to do but never got around and never got the chance to do?
Oh, yeah, it was a couple celebrations, man. You know, SK, you know, that's my guy out there, man. Actually, me and my wife go out there and visit him. Well, when we out there visiting the islands, man, we meet up with him and have a good time. But, you know, SK will, you know, come up with some stuff in the locker room, man. You know, we'll just throw out suggestions and you know, just try to exercise it or celebrate whenever we get a chance. But one I wish I wanted to do. We wanted to play the leapfrog game with the linemen, so we didn't get a chance to do that. So that's next year. You know, I mean, with this coming year, you know, if we get an opportunity to go over there, that would definitely be on the list.
Yes, all these moves that we saw from the CAFL. By the way, great season from you, from the Shanghai Skywalkers. We all had you in the China Bowl, but it didn't work out. Best of luck to you next year. But those dances made headlines everywhere in the U.S. LA Times, ESPN, everywhere. It's awesome. But when we learn from that, Mike Washington, wide receiver of the Valor joining us. You now are playing with an MVP quarterback in Eric Myers. What is your relationship like with him?
Me and mine go back since the Spokane days, man. He actually my roommate now in the hotel. We just got back from doing some marketing promo stuff with the Washington Valor at the Verizon Center. But, you know, money is money, man. Super silly. You know, everybody loves him, man. He's one of them silly guys. He just got that energy that, you know, just attract people, man. Make you smile. You crack up around him. But football field, man, at practice mode, super intense, man. He wake up in the morning, we go to practice, he put his country music on, and he's super intense, man, on and off the field. So, you know, Money has been my guy. So it was great to hear, you know, that they signed him because, you know, as a receiver, especially in this league that's really garnered around quarterbacks, as a receiver, like, I got to know who's the quarterback first, and then, you know, I'll have a, you know, inclination of whether I'll sign or not. But, you know, it feels good to be reunited with Meyer. You know, he's one of the leaders on the team, and he definitely got the team on the right track as far as, like, offensive-wise. And as a whole, too. But, you know, a lot of guys rally around him, rally around that energy, and he definitely stepped that leadership role.
Well, that actually just kind of took my question about how excited were you knowing that the team signed him, but I got to go a little inside with that. With that intensity, country music and all, which I have nothing against, are you seeing that sort of MVP form that he had when he won the Arena Bowl? And basically, does he still got it? Because it sounds to me like he does.
Yeah, Erik definitely still got it, man. He talks about, I think, this is the most I've seen him being so critical of himself. Because, you know, he always talks about how he's been out of ball for a year and a half. And, like, every time he get on the field, like, practice, he says his hands are always shaking because he's too excited. So he has to calm himself down. But, man, it just mattered for him just knocking the rust off and getting timing. But that came in the snap of a finger. So, you know, Amaya, the MVP season from San Jose, man, it's going to come back. I mean, it's there already. I see it. So, and as the season goes along, man, all it's going to do is just get better as you get more time in the rhythm down with the players. You get comfortable with the line and up front. So, it's only a matter of time. I have the utmost confidence in Meyer and his ability. So, I'm good.
8 days away from the very first game at the Verizon Center against the Baltimore Brigade. Being there in Washington and being able to kind of feel the buzz around the city, I'm sure for one is exciting, but are you kind of feeling a little bit of pressure having to go out and kind of perform for the very first week for the hometown crowd?
Nah, I'm not feeling any type of pressure, man, because I think we have a very good vet nucleus. The receivers and the quarterbacks make this thing go, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because we got to score points. But as far as like personal pressure, I put pressure on myself to succeed, and you want to. The first games are kind of hard, man, especially when you got so much, like the fans are so much invested into it. A lot of people are new to the game; they don't know what to expect. So you got to put a good product out on the field, and I think we got the guys around to do so. Coach Dean in the front office, and Coach Tunn and Coach Benjamin McDowell, man, I think they've been busting their butts, getting the right players here, not only with talent, but as far as like character too. So that goes a long way, because I'm telling you right now, like Washington Valor, the Monumental Sports Network organization that handles all this stuff, I mean, this is above reproach. So, you want to set that good example and, win the first game so you can get more more fans coming to the game and get used to the, whole AFL experience, because it's definitely a fun game to be around.
Mike Washington joining us. There are 5 teams in the Football League right now. All of them, especially the Valor, are loaded with talent. Is there one team you are both nervous to play, and is there one team you're excited to play against this year?
Oh, you're never nervous to play against anyone, but, always excited to play against the champs, man. That's the Philadelphia Soul.
Yeah.
They're Arena Bowl's champs, so, of course every week, and I'm pretty sure they're familiar with it too, so of course every week you want to try to dethrone the champs, man. It's just, just the nature of football, the nature of sports in period. So the most exciting team is definitely Philadelphia, but as far as like being nervous, I'm not really nervous to play against any team, but I'll say the Soul would definitely be the most exciting, because they got Clinton's an awesome coach. I mean, he won an Arena Bowl last year, then he turned around and won the Chinese Arena Bowl. So so it'd be good to to sneak a win in, and it's definitely going to be highly competitive. Now that we have all the teams out here on the Northeast, so. Going to be super competitive, and, we got a lot of talent on our roster here in Washington Valor. The coach is going to have to make some tough decisions, and, we'll go from there. But I think we got a right group of people, and Meyer and some of the other vets like Dawkins and myself, and especially T.T. Tolliver, man. That's like, a lot of them young guys don't realize who they're playing with, man. I got to, reiterate something, you actually playing with a living legend, man. That guy is 40 years old. Still doing it, so big up to TT.
Now, I gotta ask, especially about the opener, because I'm trying to get a hashtag going, calling this one the Beltway Smackdown. It just, to me, it seems fitting. Now,
yeah, perfect.
with this kind of DC-Baltimore rivalry, already see flashes of it when they play Redskins, Ravens. You've got Nationals, Orioles. Do you think that, especially being 2 expansion teams coming in the league at the same time, same ownership, you think with the Valor, you're going to get that rivalry and possibly create a good, intense one with the Brigade?
I hope so, because the tension between Baltimore and DC, which is only a matter of, I want to say, 40 minutes between the city. Mm-hmm. Like, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised how some of them don't even go to DC, or some of them go to Baltimore because they hate each other in their sports, man. Like, there was a couple of workers that worked here in the hotel, and, I was just asking about where you was from, and, they say it's from Baltimore area. Like, you ever go to DC, or, you move for the Redskins? And, curse words started flying out their mouth. They're like, no, man. I'm like, y'all really hate each other. So, Beltway SmackDown, that'd be something good. I kind of like that name. So hopefully that, you can get a rivalry brewing, because that's always exciting. A lot of fans like that, rivals, especially in their own state. So, I think that'd be good for not only the sport, but for the cities as well.
So real quick, you've kind of mentioned how well the Monumental Sports Network are running things over there in Washington. I mean, you've played for several teams in the Arena Football League. Teams like Pittsburgh, like you mentioned, Spokane, the Rattlers. What is exactly different about the way they're handling from what you can see?
I mean, it just make you feel it's more professional, man. Everybody's attentive, practical. Everybody is on time. And they just let. Because usually here in a lot of these arena leagues, especially new franchises, man, you get a lot of people who come into this thing who don't really know football. You don't get a lot of football guys. You get a lot of people in suits who trying to run it like a business. And thing about this arena football, it's a fraternity amongst us, man. Like we all play against each other, play with each other, play against the same coaches. Like because the overturn in this league is very high, given that the teams always drop it now, they fold in or whatnot. So like, players talk, coaches talk, and it's like a big football nucleus. So, we got guys, you got the ownership here who put the players first, who put the product first, and surround the players with all the tools necessary to get better as a professional, on and off the field. So, some of the things here, man, if y'all get a chance to visit, is quite amazing.
All right, last question for us. Your Rattlers last year lost to the Soul in the Arena Bowl 29. So, and you say this year the team you want to face most is Philadelphia. Is there a chip on your shoulder from that loss last year, or is it just you want to play the Soul?
You just want to play the Soul. There's no chip or nothing like that. But a team like that, they're champions, and until somebody dethrone them, they're going to remain champions because they still have that title. But you always want to play the best because that's where your talent step up and bring out the best in you. So it's just a competitive nature. It has nothing to do with like no animus or anything like that. And besides, half of that team I was playing with in China, so they kind of like my brothers. So but at the same time, you have to compete, and you just want to beat the champion. So we'll see how that goes this year.
Well, as they say, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And knowing you play with, as you say, you're trying with a lot of Soul players, they are the champs. Do you think if you can at least put a good showing against them or beat them, entirely capable, would that start to put potential championship feelings in your mind, especially coming from your time with Arizona?
Nah. You got it. That takes you don't really get that feeling till later on the season, man. The first couple of games, I think we got Philadelphia in like the first 4 games, first 5 games or something like that. So the first couple of games, you really just playing chess. You're trying to figure out. You're playing chess on both sides. You're trying to figure out where your team at. Whether you got to work on some things. You're trying to find out, how other teams are playing, who they got. So it's really you playing the chess game. But then later on in the season, once the team is gelling and you got a rhythm going and things are clicking, that's when you can really, see if you're on that championship run or not. Because you got to take into account, injuries might happen. Just things that's outside of football, that might take place. So, you just got to stay vigilant, you got to stay focused, and you got to realize, who you represent, not only your name in the back of your jersey, but you also represent something bigger than you, which is the fans and this organization. So, but like I said earlier, I think we got the guys put in the right place to do that.
Coming into this season, brand new team, brand new almost everything with this league. The league kind of turning the page, starting a new chapter with 2 new teams, kind of resetting, hitting the reset button, if you will. Brand new everything. For you, going into this year with a fresh start, what are kind of your own personal goals for this 2017 season?
My own personal goals is to get back on pace for my 1,000-yard seasons. Fortunately, I was hampered by an Achilles injury back in 2015. But personally, just get on my 1,000-yard seasons and get back to my 40-plus, 35-plus touchdowns. So that's as far as me, it's personal goals. And just lead by example, too, for some of the young guys that, keep on the team. And, you always want to set a good example on and off the field. And, like I said, that's my focus. And that's the only, thing I'm focused on as far as personal goals.
Mike Washington, wide receiver of the Washington Valor. One thing I'm going to be looking for is you getting I remember watching you and playing in China. I would be up at 2 o'clock in the morning watching Shanghai games. You were wide open. It's like you just broke the defender's ankles getting so wide open. It was like nobody else was there besides you. I'll be looking for that this season. Thank you for joining us here on This Week in the AFL. Best of luck to you next week. I'll be watching.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. And, that's the reason why they call me the joystick. So, the fans will get to taste the joystick.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Hello to all you Arena League football fans out there. I want to personally welcome you to join us, AFL Fan Zone, every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for a weekly recap of all things AFL. You got stuff to do on the weekends, which means you probably don't have time to sit down and watch every single game every week. That's where AFL Fan Zone comes in. Not only do we break down the week, but we provide you with everything you need to stay up to date with the AFL, including Players of the Week, Power Rankings, and the weekly standings. Best part is, the recap is fully interactive between the viewers and the host. Just search AFL Fan Zone on YouTube and you can find all of our archived videos, including game previews, recaps, and weekly updates. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and at our website at www.aflfanzone.com. AFL Fan Zone, your internet home for the best AFL fans.
Hi, I'm Donovan James, and welcome to the Don James High School Football Report, everybody, where we discuss and debate the hottest prep and college football recruiting topics in the country every week. Only here on NGSC Sports, 9:30 Eastern. For more, follow me on Twitter at Don James Sports.
It's game time, boys, and we know football. Football the Max is the podcast for you if you want in-depth analysis over the NFL and college football. We preview all the action coming your way over the weekend. And we break down all the big action after it's happened. Plus, we tackle all the big news topics and discuss everything when it comes to the gridiron. So come check out Football to the Max every Tuesday morning and Friday morning on the W2M network.
Are you an arena football fan looking for the latest news involving your team? Inside the Arena has you covered. Check us out for the latest news around both the Arena Football League and the Chinese Arena Football League. Read all of our stellar articles at InsideTheArena.org. Also, follow us on Twitter at Inside_Arena and like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/InsideTheArena.
Welcome back to This Week in the AFL. Joran, Palacio, Erik, Watkins, Steven are here with you. Collin Taylor is currently in a position meeting, he called it. He'll be here. He'll be joining us in a few more minutes. That was pretty good. That was a pretty good interview with Mike Washington.
I cannot wait to see if some of those epic celebrations he brings him to DC. If he does, fans are just going to be one. End of story.
And we also have a new hashtag. Hashtag what was it? Beltway Smackdown, you called it?
Beltway Smackdown. It was very little used when I was living in Maryland in high school for Redskins Ravens. It's time to bring it back.
And most certainly, especially with rivalries such as Valor and Brigade. But now we get into the nitty-gritty. The Cleveland Gladiators. And last year, and I said this earlier in the show, last year. All right, so we're going to bring Collin Taylor on now. As I said last year, if Arizona had been there, we would have had Cleveland, Philadelphia in the Arena Bowl last year.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And talk about rivalries. That would have been easily just as a tremendous game. In Cleveland, a second chance to get over the hump and win a title. I think they're going to be thinking about that again this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty much without question that Cleveland was the second best team in that conference behind Arizona. But you have to remember, at the end of last season, Cleveland hadn't played a game at home in 2 or 3 months or something like that. No matter what team it is, no matter what team you are, no matter how good you are, when you go that long without playing at your own home stadium, it's going to start to wear on you, always spending time on the road week after week after week. So, I mean, that by itself had a lot to do with the issues going on in Cleveland. You had your quarterback go down. It was one thing on top of another for the Gladiators that I think really, really hampered them in making that conference championship game with Arizona a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, and Jordan made a good point that they did play 7 consecutive games last year. And Collin even told us, I believe, when he was on This Week in AFL, the CAFL edition, that took a toll on him. So this year, I don't think that they have to do that again.
No, thankfully that was for the convention, so it was kind of very flukish one-off. So the schedule, thankfully, a lot more favorable.
But here's something that we haven't really touched upon, and this is something I feel pretty deep about. MVP. I mean, you expect probably with someone from Philadelphia like Dan Radabach to win MVP this year because he was second. He was runner-up to Nick Davila last year. Now Nick Davila is a coach in the IFL. I would say that Arvell Nelson has to be up for MVP this year.
Definitely, and it's going to be another very crowded quarterback-heavy MVP conversation, but I also think with the all-around talent, you're going to see a lot more players at positions that maybe even we haven't thought about just yet. So it's going to be arguably the quirkiest MVP race really in the past several years, but it's going to be fun to watch.
I think depending on how Tampa Bay does this season, I think there might be 2 players from the same teams competing with each other for that MVP. If Randy Hippiard and Joe Hills both have the seasons that they are capable of having, Joe Hills showing it off last year, scoring I think over 50 touchdowns. I think that'll be pretty interesting if 2 Tampa Bay guys are both at the top trying to battle each other out for the MVP. But I agree with Erik. This is going to be one of the closest contested MVP races that this league may have ever seen.
That's a pretty bold statement. One of the closest competitions. How close was it last year between Davila and Radabach?
I think, what was it? Just a few votes? Or so ever many points?
Yeah, I think it was pretty tight last year as well.
So like I said, it'd be interesting to see if Arvell Nelson could possibly get up there and win the AFL MVP. But the Gladiators in general, I feel like they have a better shot with Arizona being gone. I feel like it'd be them in Philadelphia in the Arena Bowl because you have the Storm.
Hello?
Oh, here we are. Yes, finally joining now wide receiver Collin Taylor from the Cleveland Gladiators. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, thank you. I imagine you guys are standing up and giving me a standing ovation.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's
You know it.
Well, that sure is what it sounds like. I appreciate that, guys. Glad to be back. How's everybody doing?
Very
well.
good.
Good.
And you'll be glad to know I had enough sense to eat dinner before we got started this time. So don't risk of getting hungry again.
Okay, we can't have that. Now we're finally back on we're on this side of the hemisphere, so I'm on similar time schedules as you guys are this time.
yes. Last time we talked to Collin, he was over in China, which Him, by the way, congratulations to you and the Beijing Lions of winning the title. Very good.
Yeah, thank you. That'll be a trivia answer one day. Who won the first ever CFL championship?
I look forward
So
to
everybody listening will know.
I look forward to it. But let's talk about Gladiators football now. Last year,
let's do it.
You guys lost to the Arizona Rattlers in the National Conference game, and I was saying pretty much before you came on when we kicked off the show. That was one thing keeping you out of the Arena Bowl last year, being part of the National Conference with the Rattlers because they were so dominant with Mike Washington and Nick DeVille, and now they're not there. Now, do you feel more confident that you and the Gladiators can reach the Arena Bowl this year with Arizona not in it?
Obviously, I think everybody feels a little more confident, not only because powerhouse Arizona Rattlers aren't in the league, but I think also because, we've shaved it down to 5 teams, but kind of like 5 all-star teams when you really look at the rosters. I know we feel good, in training camp moving along so far. Got a couple more days of training camp to get right and kind of figure this team out. And then next week we'll go get ready for Tampa, who's our home opener on April 8th. But, I don't know if it's having Arizona out that really gives us confidence. I just think it's kind of the team we've put together both on offense and defense this offseason and going into camp. I think we really, really feel good who we have going forward. And, we're just looking to finally get out there and hit, or in my case, get hit by people of another colored jersey because I'm getting sick of getting hit by, Timo and Willie McGinnis and some of these monsters we have on defense. So, I don't know if it's so much Arizona not being there as if it as much as it is, the team we have moving forward.
And that really leads into my first question. With coming so close, really the past few years with Cleveland, winning a title over in China, do you think the Gladiators this year have what they need to potentially not just get back to the playoffs and have another shot, but to really win it all?
Yeah, and that's funny you mentioned, winning that championship over in China because I know the guys who, all those Philadelphia Soul players who got the opportunity to play for the Lions. They knew what it felt like to go to the Arena Bowl, to win the Arena Bowl, a couple months later turn around and win another championship. So I don't think that might have been as special to them as it was for, myself and guys like Chris Deeker and some of these other guys who haven't really had the opportunity to win a professional football championship. But what it did to me, the feeling we had that night, the feeling we had when the horn went off and we were winners, really drove me kind of this entire offseason. Not like I needed any extra, any other variables to drive me. But it really drove me this offseason to just want to get that feeling back. It was almost that feeling is addictive. That feeling of being a champion and winning is addictive, and it's something that I want again. In 2014, I know we've talked about a couple times. That incredible season we had here in Cleveland got so close. And then we're just manhandled by the Rattler team we spoke about earlier, and then last year making it to the conference finals, and a couple years ago doing pretty well as well. It's something that you dream about and you think about and you wake up and it's the first thing you think about every day, and it's the last thing you think about before you go to bed. And I know even before I signed to come back to Cleveland, I thought, seeing some of these signings, some of these big signings, Kent Richardson, Rayshon Kaiser, some of these other guys, I thought we were putting together a championship team, and I thought looking at the roster going into camp that we would have the best team, and we do. I'll be honest, we have the best team coming out of camp that I've had here the past 3 previous years in Cleveland. But that's something that, I think we can do it here, but I would be shocked if anybody in Tampa Bay told you they didn't think they could win it, or anybody in Philly told you they couldn't repeat, or anybody in DC or Baltimore tell you that they couldn't do it. I feel really good about this team going forward, and I think this could be the year, but they don't give out championships based on potential. So we're going to have to come out and we're going to have to play 14 really good Arena Football League games over the next 18 weeks and then win a couple in the playoffs and hopefully bring that championship home, because I know, how much I'm fiending for it after being able to hold that championship trophy in China. So it's something that, I think about all the time, but I really can't focus on that because it's so far away. I just got to think about tomorrow and then the next day and then the next day and kind of, little battles that'll get you to that championship game here in a couple months.
Collin, I'm pretty sure the last time we talked about the Arena Football League as a whole, you were over in China, and I'm pretty sure this was the week or so that everybody seemed to be kind of folding or dropping out of the league, and we talked about the league state then, and we talked earlier in the show today that everybody's so quick to say, oh, the Arena League is dying, there's only 5 teams in it. So now that we've kind of had this more full circle view on it, what is your view, what is your take on the Arena Football League right now as it stands today?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I know we've been asked it, a couple times. We had a couple people from the local Cleveland media come to me with that same question, and obviously it is a concern. I think for more outsiders looking in to see, man, these just a couple years ago, these guys had 13 teams, 12 teams, whatever it was. We had guys on the West Coast and the East Coast and the Midwest, kind of all over the place. And now, slowly losing teams, and ultimately, setting this schedule with 5 teams. And the last time we talked, and early on, it felt pretty uncomfortable. It didn't feel like a great environment for the Arena Football League to be able to survive in. But it kind of as time has gone by, and I've seen what some of these owners are doing, and the new owner out there on the East Coast for the Baltimore and the DC team, and having Ron Jaworski there in Philly. I think what's happening and what Scott Butera, our commissioner, is doing. I think he was just kind of weaning out kind of those weaker, not weaker teams, but the cities that didn't have the big time support systems. And you see some of these teams, you play in Cleveland and you're going to play in front of 10, 11, 12,000 people. And they do a really good job of promoting us, and our owner's obviously very well known, and Dan Gilbert, he's well known, and he's got so many connections in Cleveland. I know his name brings a ton of fans to the Cleveland games. Same thing in Philly. You go out there to Philly, you're going to play in front of a ton of people because they have a great following and the city really supports them. But you would go to places like New Orleans, which I loved playing. I have my best friend lived out there for years, so I loved playing there. But you'd go there and play in front of 2,000, 3,000 people, and then you'd talk to the players, and they would say they're out in the public day-to-day stuff, and nobody'd ever heard of the team, things like that. Or you'd go to some of these other. I played in Iowa for a couple years, and they were such a great organization for a long time. And then most recently, last couple years, the last season I was there, I think there were 4,000 or 5,000 people, something like that, a game. So what this commissioner is doing, I think he's kind of weaning out those teams that don't make us look as professional of a league as we are. And so now you're going to go to a game as a fan in Philadelphia. You're going to go to a game in D.C. You're going to go to a game in Tampa. And there's going to be that professional football feel. And I think that's what everybody looks for. So people are wondering if we can survive, this 5-team league right now. And I think it's a really good opportunity for us to actually thrive and gain more fans and gain more notification and gain more publicity moving forward. And I think people who are interested in the Arena Football League, when it comes to investors or ownership groups and stuff like that, they'll see the type of product that we as players and as teams are putting on the field every single week after week. Because like I mentioned earlier, you've got 5 all-star teams out there. Every game is going to be a good game. Every game is going to go down to the end. And, a lot of points are going to be scored, a lot of plays, a lot of highlights are going to be made. And I think people who are looking at this league and, and thinking it's maybe not as big as it is or things like that, kind of looking as a lower league or maybe a lower product, is going to see that we have some really incredible players and some really incredible teams. And I think from that, we're going to get people interested, and then from here only expand to the biggest markets with the biggest owners and the biggest followings. And I think it'll be a really good thing for us moving forward. But we'll see April 8th. I know the Q's going to be rocking. I hope the other games are just as good as we are. But moving forward, I think we're in a pretty good position here.
So the Cavs won the NBA Finals, being down 3-1. The Indians were in the World Series. The Cleveland Monsters won. I believe they won the latest AHL Cup. I'd be wrong.
They did. Yeah, they did. You're absolutely right.
So do you feel like there's more pressure on the Gladiators to win the Arena Bowl now?
I think it's got to happen. Last season, it's funny. Last season they came out with kind of promotional cups, right? You go to NBA games and you get sodas for they're on sale for $8 or whatever, and you buy you get the promotional cup for $2 more that you get to take home. Well, what they had last year was they had a picture of the Cavs on the side of the cup, they had the Monsters on the side of the cup, and they had the Gladiators on the side of the cup. And both of those teams had won the championship, so I thought it was only divine intervention that we had won last year, because it would have had 3 champions on the same cup. Unfortunately, that cup wasn't the end-all, be-all, and we ended up losing, and the other teams ended up winning. But now, moving forward, I think the fans are really excited about what we have going on this next year. The Cavs aren't as dominant as they were last year, but I think they're going to do some really good things. The Indians look good, moving here into spring training soon. And we were actually just spent some time in the owner's suite a couple of days ago. We all went and supported the Cleveland Monsters, and they look pretty good. They're right there on the brink of getting into the playoffs. But I mean, this is a really good opportunity for us to bring home another championship to Cleveland. And I know Cleveland is dying for that, football championship. And I know they want the Browns to be better. And it's funny because when we come back, people always kind of make that joke. Well, all right, it's time, for the season of the best football team in Cleveland. And people joke about that just because the Browns have unfortunately not been great the last couple of years. But, I don't know if it's pressure, but I know it's something that everybody wants, and everybody wants a football championship, and everybody wants to see us succeed. And so we're going to do the best we can do to hopefully give that to these people.
I'll go ahead, Erik.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say we were out of time here, but I just had to say this. Collin, you come on, you say that winning the CAFL title last year gave you motivation sort of for the offseason. When we ended the show back in November, the only thing I've thought of while I go to work in the morning is when I'm coming back doing this show, I could say, let's bring on Collin Taylor. Every time I used to think about that all the time. Now the season is here. So whenever we have you back on, we can do that again. I want to apologize to Jordan and Erik that we're not going to be able to get to their questions. But we want to thank Collin Taylor for coming on the show again today. We love having him on.
Another standing up.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Like I said, that's how I imagine you guys doing that. Always fun talking to you guys. I was able to sneak out of meetings right there at the very end and get on with you guys. But really looking forward to moving forward with this season and getting on and talking to you guys. And as often as you guys want me, I'll be free. Always make some time for you guys. So it's fun and really looking forward to an awesome Arena Football League season this year.
Yes, sir. Best of luck to you this season.
Thank you so much. You have a great night, guys. Great talking to y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Collin.
All right, I don't think we're going to get to Joe Hills tonight, but we will talk Storm on the other side. You are listening to This Week in the AFL.
Hello to all you Arena League football fans out there. I want to personally welcome you to join us, AFL Fan Zone, every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for a weekly recap of all things AFL. You got stuff to do on the weekends, which means you probably don't have time to sit down and watch every single game every week. That's where AFL Fan Zone comes in. Not only do we break down the week, but we provide you with everything you need to stay up to date with the AFL, including Players of the Week, Power Rankings, and the weekly standings. Best part is, the recap is fully interactive between the viewers and the host. Just search AFL Fan Zone on YouTube and you can find all of our archived videos, including game previews, recaps, and weekly updates. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and at our website at www.aflfanzone.com. AFL Fan Zone, your internet home for the best AFL fans.
Hi, I'm Donovan James, and welcome to the Don James High School Football Report, everybody, where we discuss and debate the hottest prep and college football recruiting topics in the country every week. Only here on NGSC Sports, 9:30 Eastern. For more, follow me on Twitter at Don James Sports.
It's game time, boys, and we know football. Football the Max is the podcast for you if you want in-depth analysis over the NFL and college football. We preview all the action coming your way over the weekend. And we break down all the big action after it's happened. Plus, we tackle all the big news topics and discuss everything when it comes to the gridiron. So come check out Football to the Max every Tuesday morning and Friday morning on the W2M network.
Are you an Arena Football fan looking for the latest news involving your team? Inside the Arena has you covered. Check us out for the latest news around both the Arena Football League and the Chinese Arena Football League. Read all of our stellar articles at InsideTheArena.org. Also, follow us on Twitter at Inside_Arena and like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/InsideTheArena.
Welcome back to This Week in the AFL alongside Joran, Palacio, and Erik Watkins. I'm Stephen Erik. Great interview. Collin Taylor's always great when he comes on the show. We love having him on. And that was just another great interview.
Absolutely. And I actually, hoping for the next time we have him on, I got one question that's going to be even better, so I can let that simmer and marinate for a while.
Yeah, I love Collin. You know, wish nothing but the best for the guy. Nice enough to spend some time with me and talk to me down at the Arena Bowl 29 Media Day. Awesome dude and awesome player, might I add. Seems like he's always a lock for first team All Arena. Wonderful guy, and like I said, hoping nothing but the best for him.
Yeah, I've feeling the Gladiators could do something good this year. I also feel like the Storm could do something good this year. Tampa Bay Storm, this is their 26th season in the league. Their 25th was last year. Didn't have a great year last year, but now things are different because they have, I feel like, the best wide receiver quarterback duo in the league. They have Randy Hipyard, however you say it, and future Hall of Famer Joe Hills. I feel like those two are going to make this Tampa Bay Storm one team to watch.
And not to mention, aside from really bringing the two prodigal sons home in Hippert and Hills, they kept Kendrick Ings, they've got Alvin Ray Jackson, they've boosted along their defensive line, offensive line. I said it at the beginning of the show, this is a team that really is the best you could say won the offseason, and I'm hoping they can take some better pages about building big teams and having the chemistry work in faster. But I think if it does, all I'm saying is make that trip. Plan to make that trip down here.
Well, I mean, I think Joe Hills might be one of the best wide receivers to ever step foot on an Arena Football League field. So when you throw him into any team, that team gets a whole lot better. And then you add a guy like Randy Hipyard at quarterback, who is having an MVP-like season for Orlando last season before getting hurt and having to miss the rest of said season. I think just those two alone make this offense probably at one of the top in the entire league. I'd say probably one or two, just because of who those guys can be. I think Tampa Bay has got to be one of the favorites. They obviously weren't my favorite, but if I had to pick two teams right now into the Arena Bowl, I'd probably say the way I see it right now, it would be Tampa Bay and Philadelphia in the final.
That's bold. I would love, like Erik kept saying, and I keep saying, I would love for the Arena Bowl to be in Tampa. That would be just awesome. But there is one thing, and I'm not trying to be negative here. There's one thing that concerns me about the Storm, and unfortunately, it's their coach. Ron James coached Shane Austin and the Portland Steel last year, and they finished with the second worst record in the league. So I don't know about you, Erik. You're the Storm writer for InsideTheArena.org. That's the tiniest bit of concern I have for Tampa Bay is their coach, Ron James.
I honestly think he's going to be fine because, yes, he had Shane Austin, and yes, there were the Portland Steel, but look at the situation the Portland Steel were in. Being taken over by the league, being renamed, a lot of really off-field battles, and just trying to get a team together to go and compete. That really hampered him, and I'll admit there is a potential for a little bit of struggle, but having a team together, having leadership, like you say, in Derek Brooks and the front office who also controls the Lightning, they're going to give him the opportunities that he really didn't have in the Pacific Northwest. I hope and I believe he'll capitalize on them, but if there is a little bit of struggle those first few weeks, then I'd have to kind of concede to you on that one.
Yeah, I think Erik took the words out of my mouth on that one. I don't think he was ever really given the chance or much of a chance to succeed up in Portland with all the disarray that was happening season in and season out. Before the season ended, people were already saying, "Oh, this is Portland's last year in the league. They're going to be done." this, that. I mean, X, Y, and Z, really. So now, like Collin was just saying that now that there's only 5 teams, they have an opportunity to kind of prove themselves as a league that, yeah, we are the best of the indoor football leagues in the United States and that we are the most fun to watch. And I think this is Coach James's opportunity to kind of prove himself as, yes, when I have the right pieces around me, when I have the opportunities, when I have the security that I know that this team is going to be a team next year, that he can prove himself. And I'm with both of you guys. Is there a possibility for some disappointment? Absolutely, there is with any team. But I think now more than ever would be the best time to be optimistic about Coach James, just because he has the players. Absolutely, he has the players now, and now he has the right ownership. He has the right support staff. I think if this was a year, if there was ever any time to kind of buy in to the Tampa Bay Storm, I'd say this year would be it.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Again, it's just a little bit of concern because Ron James didn't do too well with Portland. And you're right, he has the players with him. He has Randy Hippard. He has Joe Hills. And here's one guy that I remember watching him last year, and I was like, I like this guy. Like, he is really good. And I don't know if you know his name. His name is Cortez Stubbs. He plays on the defense for Tampa Bay. That is the one guy I am looking out for when it comes to the defense, at least for the defense. So the offense, you got Randy Hippard, you got Joe Hills. I think he'll be fine. But Cortez Stubbs, the one guy I'm looking for on defense. Erik, you write for the Storm, so I'll start with you on this. Is there one guy you see on the defense that could lead this team?
Alvin Ray. And again, I know I'm going to be sounding like a homer, but I saw him for a couple seasons in Jacksonville, especially in crunch situations towards the end of the season when Jacksonville getting things together in the playoffs against Orlando. He's a guy that perfect positioning, doesn't necessarily have a lot of responsibility as far as with the rush being the jack linebacker, but you have him right in that first line of coverage. The ball just, almost no matter who it is, it can find him. And that's going to take some of the stress off of Stubbs and allow him to be even better. But I like that signing because I think that's going to be the defensive focal point.
I think the signing of Alvin Ray Jackson addressed a big need for the Storm. In terms of seeing one player outshining the rest, it's kind of like, oh, this is the guy. I don't really see that, but what I do see is maybe a defense that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit. You know, the entire first part of this segment was talking about, oh, you got Joe Hills, you got Randy Hippard, and granted, when you have those two on an offense, you don't even need to really worry about that offense. But on the defensive side of the ball, not many people are talking about this defense. And I think collectively, as a team, with the right coaching, with the right scheming, this defense can be one of the maybe surprises of the Arena Football League in 2017, just as long as they're able to work cohesively together. If you have Alvin Ray Jackson kind of taking some pressure off of Stubbs, as Erik alluded to, then you could just have that much better of a defensive attack. And, you know, the Arena Football League, what really decides games are stops. You know, I mean, the cliche is true. I mean, defense wins championships, and that's going to be the case in any sport. The more amount of stops and turnovers you create, the opportunity and the probability that your chances of winning the game are going to skyrocket. So I think collectively as a unit, Tampa Bay's defense might be one of the more underrated aspects of this 2017 season.
You know, you both make very good points, and I feel like I keep forgetting about the signing of Alvin Ray Jackson, the stud for the Sharks last season. Loved watching him as well. As I saw Jacksonville compete with the big dogs, especially Philadelphia. And I said that Ron James thing was a big concern, the one concern for me. But here's another thing. You also forget that Randy Hippard tore his ACL last summer. And like Jordan said earlier, that had Bernard Moore step in. Do you guys feel maybe there's a little bit of concern with the ACL there?
Considering is how, and correct me if I'm wrong, was this the first time that he's torn his ACL or his second?
I think it might have been his second.
Okay, that a teeny bit of concern because usually for the first time, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, you're pretty much right back to where you are. And that's roughly what we were looking at here. But for the second time, it's going to be a bit longer. You're talking upwards of a year and a half. That said, I'm a bit worried, but how the team approached the offensive line, bringing about not just the defensive line as well, they focused on size. They want to win the battle in the trenches to say, okay, Randy, you're not really going to get hit. Now, every quarterback gets hit, but if you minimize, that's going to buy more and more time. That's going to be a big plus, especially because there's going to be a big quarterback battle. They're like, okay, we have Hibbert, but just in case the worst happens, we've got guys that are willing to step in. We're not going to miss a beat. So, again, concern, but minimize.
I think the ultimate judge for when maybe we need to start worrying about Hipyard is the first couple games. Because once you have a major injury like an ACL tear, one of the biggest things is the confidence level of the player that got hurt. You know, sometimes you see players who are a little bit nervous to get back into the game after having a big injury like that. And especially if it's his second ACL tear, then there's a lot of maybe cause for concern when it comes to his confidence. Him being able to get out of the pocket and move around, him taking any type of hit below the belt. I think that's the biggest thing is how he reacts to getting back on the field for the first time in almost a year. I think that's probably the biggest area to where you need to look out for is just how he seems, like how he's moving on the leg, how he's moving, just if he's taking any more caution when he's under center, you know, anything like that. I think that's the biggest key when you look at this as potential cause for concern.
Yeah, I mean, if he's out there and he's still having visualizations of people falling at his knees and taking what was a pretty brutal hit, I saw it live. It's like, that really wears on your psyche. But as Joran said, only time will tell.
So a little concern with Coach Ron James and Randy Hibbert ACL. But I'm pretty sure we can all agree here. The Storm are going to win more than 2 games next year, like they did in 2016.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Now, I had, going back to a lot of things, just saying, oh, this is the super team, oh, we're going to win them all. Like I wrote in my article, no. That is statistically impossible, given the talent of these other teams. But with a 14-game season, 8, 9, things go well out of the gate. That's not a stretch.
No, I mean, I think they'd have to do really hard to only win 2 games this year. I mean, we've all said it. They're one of the stronger teams, maybe the paper champs, if you will, of this 2017 off season, going into this 2017 season. So I think, like I said earlier, they might be at the final. They might be in the Arena Bowl with a team like Philadelphia. If fate were to have it like that, if everybody stays healthy, which in football we know is impossible, but if they're able to keep the majority of their guys there, I think this is going to be a really good Tampa Bay team.
It's definitely going to be a good Tampa Bay team. I look forward to seeing how they turn it around in 2017. We preview the champs and give our Arena Bowl picks on the other side. You are listening to This Week in the AFL.
Hello to all you Arena League football fans out there. I want to personally welcome you to join us, AFL Fan Zone, every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for a weekly recap of all things AFL. You got stuff to do on the weekends, which means you probably don't have time to sit down and watch every single game every week. That's where AFL Fan Zone comes in. Not only do we break down the week, but we provide you with everything you need to stay up to date with the AFL, including Players of the Week, Power Rankings, and the weekly standings. Best part is, the recap is fully interactive between the viewers and the host. Just search AFL Fan Zone on YouTube and you can find all of our archived videos, including game previews, recaps, and weekly updates. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and at our website at www.aflfanzone.com. AFL Fan Zone, your internet home for the best AFL fans.
Hi, I'm Donovan James, and welcome to the Don James High School Football Report, everybody, where we discuss and debate the hottest prep and college football recruiting topics in the country every week. Only here on NGSC Sports, 9:30 Eastern. For more, follow me on Twitter at Don James Sports.
It's game time, boys, and we know football. Football the Max is the podcast for you if you want in-depth analysis over the NFL and college football. We preview all the action coming your way over the weekend. And we break down all the big action after it's happened. Plus, we tackle all the big news topics and discuss everything when it comes to the gridiron. So come check out Football to the Max every Tuesday morning and Friday morning on the W2M network.
Are you an arena football fan looking for the latest news involving your team? Inside the Arena has you covered. Check us out for the latest news around both the Arena Football League and the Chinese Arena Football League. Read all of our stellar articles at InsideTheArena.org. Also, follow us on Twitter at Inside_Arena and like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/InsideTheArena.
All right, welcome back to This Week in the AFL. Joran Palacio, Erik Watkins, I'm Stephen Err. So now we are at the final team preview of the season. How else to wrap up this show but without talking about the defending champion, Philadelphia Soul. The Soul won, obviously they won the Arena Bowl last year, beating the Arizona Rattlers 56-42. 5 turnovers, including 3 on the first. I believe it was like the first 3 drives. The Rattlers made it 21-0, and that's pretty much the end of it. Very dominant performance by their defense. And that somehow tells me the Soul are going to be very hard to compete with this. Even with all this talent, I feel like the Soul are going to be the most talented team in the Arena Football League in 2017.
Talented, but I think the other 4 teams knew it, and they made it their mission. Okay, let's close the gap. Okay, how are we going to compete with these other teams, but how can we get to guys like Dan Rodabaugh? Who can we bring in to shut down these players? And this offseason created a major chess match. Now, with a head coach like Clint Dalzell, he knows that, and I think he's preparing Philadelphia to take on those challenges, but while they're not going to struggle, there's going to be some moments. There's going to be some moments. I don't see them as entirely vulnerable, but I don't see them as entirely unstoppable.
Well, like Erik said, I mean, this is the team. They are the team that has, for the most part, stayed together as one unit throughout all this different league drama. They are the defending champs. You know, we heard Mike Washington and Collin Taylor both say, "Hey, we really want to beat these guys. We can't wait to play these guys." They are going to get everybody's best game every single time they step out onto the field. But even with that said, yeah, I still think they're just right now. I mean, this is all preseason talk right now. We haven't seen any of the teams play yet, mind you. But as of right now, I still see them as a cut above everybody else, just because of Dan Rodabaugh, just because of all this talent that they have on their team, all of the talent that they've retained on their team, and the chemistry factor, like I brought up at the top of the show. You know, they've had the same guys, they have the same core group that won them an Arena Bowl last year against a Rattlers team that did barely any losing. One of their, I think, 2 or 3 losses was to the future 2-15 Tampa Bay Storm. I think this Philadelphia team just cohesively as a unit has it there and will be able just to use that to their advantage, especially in the first few weeks. But I see a possible repeat for this Philadelphia team.
Yeah, I mean, you guys say there's a bunch of talent on this team, and now they have one guy that really stands out to me is Michael Benson. He played with the Rattlers last year. I believe he might have led the league in touchdowns. I'm not too sure if that's the actual stat there, but I know he's like one of the best fullbacks in the game. I feel like having him, and they have Jeremy Richardson next to him, that right there, that just gives the Soul a bigger, I don't know how to say it, like, makes it easier for them. I won't say easier, but like they have a better chance of succeeding. Having two running backs, they also have Ryan McDaniels back, Money Reynolds, SK, Radabov's their quarterback. I just feel like the addition of Michael Benson makes it a little easier on the Soul. I don't know. Do you guys feel like there's one player that makes it easier for the Soul to be successful?
Well, to me, you hit the nail on the head, but I'm going to have a bit of an asterisk. If they use Michael Benson like they used Derrick Ross during his tenure there, then watch out. But if they use Benson like Arizona did, there were times when Benson, even as big as he is and a very dominant fullback, he kind of disappeared. So I think that's up to Dalzell and the offense to really unlock his potential and use him wisely, use him properly. If they do, then, hey, I might wind up eating crow at the end of the year.
Well, when you look at the Philadelphia Soul, I think two things stand out to me, or maybe three things. Number one is you have arguably the best quarterback in the league, which is in Dan Radabaugh, who finished second in MVP voting this past year behind Nick Davila by, like we said earlier, just a very tight margin. You have Jake Metz on the defensive line, who might have won Defensive Player of the Year last year, definitely first-team All-Arena in defense. Just an absolute stud, has been good for years now, and I think you have the best defensive back core in the entire league. You look at guys like Dwayne Hollis, James Romaine, Torres Jones. I mean, this is the very, very best that this league has to offer on one team. And like I said earlier, this league comes down to stops, and I don't think there's going to be anybody better this year in getting stops than the Philadelphia Soul, and that's the big thing with this team.
Yeah, Jordan just reminded me that they have Jake Metz. He led the league in sacks last year. He had a couple. A few of these post-hole players had tryouts with the NFL teams, but Jake Metz stood out. Having him back will also be a big addition. Having him back will definitely help the Soul defense out as well. And another guy that I like on the defense is James Romaine. Picked off 2 passes from Dick DeVille in the Arena Bowl. He was a big part of their victory. He also did well in CAFL. I'm looking forward to him as well. So, are there any last points on the Soul before we move on to our final topic here, which is who wins Arena Bowl 30?
As you say, the biggest advantage they have is chemistry, but to me, they're not the only team with the chemistry advantage. If it was one rivalry, aside from the burgeoning rivalry that will be the Beltway SmackDown, I really want to see those Philadelphia-Cleveland games. Those are, to me, going to be very telling.
Yeah, I mean, we got a couple good rivalries. You have the two teams that have stuck around, with the two teams that, for the most part, are the same, Cleveland and Philadelphia. And on the flip side, the two new kids in school, Baltimore and Washington. And I think McDaniels on this offense, the wide receiver, Ryan McDaniels, I think he might be the X factor for this Philadelphia Soul team. One of the biggest wide receivers on the team. And I think if he plays well and if he links up with Radabaugh, I think this team is going to be even more unstoppable than they might already be.
It's a good point there. Ryan McDaniel is definitely a good wide receiver. I would think that maybe Money Reynolds is a little. Him and Radabaugh have a better relationship. He seems to go. Radabaugh seems to go to Money Reynolds more when he's throwing the ball than he does to McDaniel. But I mean, McDaniel is competing with SK and he's competing with Money Reynolds. This would be the year. I would like to see McDaniel step up a little more. Not saying he hasn't stepped it up last year or anything, but this would be the year where he could probably have his career. He should probably have his career year. That was a good point by Jordan there. So I guess it is time, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start with Jordan. He's been talking about it all. He's been talking about it often in today's show. The storm. He has this. You have the storm, the storm and the soul in the Arena Bowl, right?
Yeah. I think if they both finish 1-2 in the playoff and the format that they have, if they finish on top, I think they both win their first round games, and I think that they'll meet in the Arena Bowl. Now, if they were to finish maybe 1-3, then that opens up a new possibility, maybe a Philadelphia and Washington game. But right now I see Philadelphia against Tampa Bay in the Arena Bowl. I see Philadelphia winning that game. But if I were to pick one team to keep an eye out for, it'd be Washington. But yes, I see Philadelphia and Tampa Bay in Arena Bowl 30.
And you have the Soul winning.
Yes.
Okay, so Jordan Palacio picks the Philadelphia Soul to win Arena Bowl 30. Erik, who is your Arena Bowl 30 champion?
I put this out on Twitter. I've hinted at it. Steven, you and I have talked about it. I'm going to stick with it. Collin, I am so sorry. I'm going to break your heart. But I'm going to be making about a 3.5-hour drive, give or take, down to Amalie Arena for Arena Bowl 30. I'm going to do some partying that weekend. Then I'm going to go out and I'm going to see the Tampa Bay Storm beat the Washington Valor.
Wow.
I mean, Washington has secured the biggest issues, and they've got a pretty well-formed team. I think they can do enough. Now, they're going to have to win a road semifinal, but with Erik Meyer at the helm, that's entirely possible.
That's a good one right there. I like that. So he has the Tampa Bay Storm winning the Arena Bowl over the Washington Valor. Now, for me, all these teams have talent. I've said that. I'll be saying that all season long. And I do, and Erik and I talk about this all the time. I do hope that the Arena Bowl is in Tampa because I have a place to stay there. Nice weather and all that. At the end of August, to be a good time. It would be a great time to go down to Tampa. I got family there and everything. Yeah, exactly. But I don't even have the Storm in the Arena Bowl. I'm sorry. As much as I'd love to go to Tampa for it, I just don't see it happening. And you guys talked about this to pretty much wrap up the Soul preview. Cleveland and Philadelphia's got to be one of the biggest rivalries in the game, if not the biggest rivalry in the game. So I have the Soul hosting the Arena Bowl against Cleveland. Two of the most talented teams in my eyes in the Arena Football League. Going at it in Arena Bowl 30. But I have the Soul repeating. Sorry, Collin. I have the Soul repeating, beating the Cleveland Gladiators. It'll be a close game because both teams are very talented, but that defense is probably going to be too much for Arvell Nelson, and the Soul will win their second consecutive Arena Bowl title and their third in franchise history. Any closing thoughts here tonight, gentlemen?
One thing that it's creeping into my mind more and more, especially when you mention Philadelphia's defense. Don't be surprised if you don't see as much scoring as you've been used to. If you go back and look at some of the early games in the AFL's first few years, you're probably going to see a lot of score lines closer to those. So if I were to really put a magic number on anything, I'd say 50. 50 is going to be, I wouldn't say a tough number to get, but that's going to be where a lot of teams, I think, will really plateau.
I mean, that's an interesting point. I mean, especially with all the talented offenses that we've been talking about for the majority of the show, to say 50 points. I mean, as an arena football fan, maybe that's kind of news, but I think I agree. I mean, especially when you're playing against a team like Philadelphia, their defense just seems to be on paper, their defense is the best in the league, and I don't think that there's any question about that. I think for myself personally, I'm ready to just kind of stop speculating. There's been all this talk of the league. Is the league dying? Whatever. I think I'm just ready for this league to finally kick off. Can't wait for next Friday. Can't wait for April 7th. Baltimore versus Washington. It's kind of like that rivalry is kind of like, two siblings fighting it out for their parents' approval, both owned by Ted Leonsis, and both trying to battle out to see which of Ted's teams is better. Can't wait for that game, and can't wait to start getting back into the spirit of the Arena Football League.
Yes. The 30th season kicks off Friday, April 7th with the Washington Valor against the Baltimore Brigade at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. It's going to be a great season. We're going to bring you all types of coverage here on This Week in the AFL and over at InsideTheArena.org, so be sure to check it all out. Thank you all for listening to the 2017 Arena Football League season preview here on This Week in the AFL. Thank you to Joran Palacio. Thank you to Erik Watkins. Thank you to Mike Washington of the Washington Valor joining us. Thank you to Collin Taylor. Always love having him on from Cleveland Gladiators. Props to Sean Garner and the W2M Network and W2Mnet.com for producing and hosting this podcast. Let's go, everybody. The 30th season. Let's get ready for it. Let's have some fun. And go Soul. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Let's do it.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.